Being a Christian yogi stoic is a little bit of a difficult contradiction, but all of these philosophies have given me so much value in my life. What I'd like to share with you here is the most important lesson I have ever learned from Buddhism. It comes from a quote that's from a document called the Mahabharata, which is a very, very old philosophical document. And the quote goes like this: "The truth should be told when agreeable, should be said agreeably, and truth should not be said that does harm. However, never lie to give pleasure." Now, I know it's a bit awkwardly stated. It's probably due to translation. But personally, I take so many things away from this. I'm a person that has difficult reading people sometimes. I say the wrong things and I don't even know I said the wrong things. And I also highly value truth. To me personally, I might say it is the most important pursuit in my life, is just finding what is true about this place according to my experience and philosophy. The first thing I learned from this quote that I absolutely love is that truth is greater than pleasure. It doesn't matter what it is that I want to think about or do in life. If I realize that there's a pleasure element involved, I immediately need to check in with myself and say, am I seeking pleasure or truth first? There is a clear answer to this question. We should always seek truth. But what is far more useful to me that I've learned from this is the second piece, which is non-harm is more important than truth. Seeking absolute truth is probably the biggest goal of my life. But one of the things I have to realize is that in relationship with other people, it is more important that I don't do harm than that I spread truth. So if there's something that I know to be true, but if I state it, it's going to do harm to someone, then I should keep that truth to myself for now. I also should continue developing these relationships. And at some point in the future, I can probably share that truth in a way that doesn't do harm. But in this instance, I should always value non-harm over truth. And then whatever truth I have to share, there are two things that this quote gives us that are wonderfully important. The first is that, okay, I have this truth that I feel compelled to share. I know that it doesn't do harm. And I know that I want to share it despite the fact that it may or may not give pleasure to anybody. But there are two clues that we have for how that truth should be shared. The first is that the truth should be shared agreeably. So I really need to consider messaging and think, am I going to share this truth and create conflict? If that's the case, I really need to consider how I'm sharing the truth. And I need to back up and think, how can I share this truth in a way that is agreeable between all parties? So when speaking the truth to people, there are two tips this quote gives us. And the first is that the statement of truth should be agreeable. So I have to make sure that not only is this truth that I'm going to share not because I'm pleasure seeking and it doesn't cause harm to anybody, but also the statement itself needs to be agreeable. And if I know this person I'm talking with is not going to be agreeable to this truth, then I should have serious questions about what I'm saying. And the second tip is that when I share that agreeable truth, I need to be sure that I say it agreeably. It's really the fact that if I share something that is not agreeable for someone, or if I share it in a way that is not agreeable to them, I'm causing some sort of conscious harm to their psyche. Now, conflict and harm to me are very different. We all need to have conflict in our psyche at some point. We need to deal with difficult truths, and we need to assimilate new learning into our lives. But all of that has to do with conflict, which is different than harm. If I share something that is not agreeable, or I share something in a way that is not agreeable, I'm creating some sort of harm in someone. And it's worth consideration. Like, conflict is okay, it's part of progress. Harm, we need to avoid. And this only makes sense to me. As a Christian, when I look at the life of Jesus, he didn't really do harm to anyone, but he definitely created conflict. If this is interesting, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button. This is Stoic Yogi, out.